Right, guys, it's Nick with Couch Potato Fights. Excuse me. Yeah, just going to be a 15-20 minute video previewing Fabio Wardley versus Justis Huni, which is this Saturday, 7th of June. Really looking forward to this one. Am I looking forward to it as much as I was looking forward to Big Baby Miller versus Fabio Wardley? Probably not, but it looks like they've rushed. They've knocked heads together. Thought, let's get another worthy opponent, a good opponent. So he's a good replacement opponent, really. Justis Huni is 12-0, 7 knockouts. I remember seeing him, he did fight Kevin Lerena, which was a while back. I think it was on a Riyadh season card. I remember him being stunned, but ultimately he did get the win. So he's unbeaten. He said himself he didn't really need to take this fight. He could have taken a few more fights before fighting someone like Wardley, maybe 2 or 3 more fights. He did say on a podcast earlier, I think he was outspoken of White and Jordan, which I love Simon Jordan. I love listening to anything he does, to be honest. He's quite a polarising figure at times, but I love Simon Jordan. So it's basically a breakdown anyway. Sort of a breakdown, I'm freestyling it, but I've got some notes. I've got box rec up. Whatever, it'll be 15-20 minutes. There's a pizza in the oven. I'm fucking starving. I've just got back from work. So yeah, I'm hungry. So yeah, I need some sustenance. So yeah, it'll just be one look at that. So basically, the excitement level for this one is pretty high still. Okay, so he's not fighting Jarrell Miller. That would have been crazy, that fight, I think. I'd still like to see that at some point. Maybe if Wardley wins this, and maybe the winner of this fight in general could fight Miller next. Who knows? That would be a good fight. Although I'd like to see Wardley versus Miller still. There was a load of trash talk and it was getting exciting, but then he had to pull out for the fight for whatever reason. There was conspiracy theories. He's pulled out for this or that. So excitement factor. It's at Portman Road. As a spectacle, I think it's going to be very exciting. So Fabio Wardley, in case you don't know, supports Ipswich Town. I'm a big football fan. Ipswich have done very good under the manager, but they've ultimately been relegated, which was sort of expected this season. But he's a very loyal fan. So is Ed Sheeran. I heard talk that Ed Sheeran might play him out at this event or something. I can totally see that happening. Ed Sheeran seems like a good sport. I'm not massive on his music, but fair play. The guy seems like a nice dude, from what I've seen on the Disney Channel or whatever. So the excitement factor's high. It should be near a sellout, to be honest. He's a big name. He's the pride of Ipswich, pretty much. So yeah, there'll be a lot of eyes on it. The undercard, I know Louis Green's on the undercard, and I remember seeing him on a Riyadh season card as well. Very exciting fighter. So I'll be looking at the undercard, but obviously the main focus, as with any of these cards, is the main event. A lot of people are talking about Fabio Wardley's power versus Justis Huni. He's a bit cuter, a bit craftier, and he has more, skill sets and his education, his boxing education. He's had a more conventional boxing education, Justis Huni. When Fabio Wardley's done the white collar thing, and he's a bit unorthodox in his history, but he's working. He's 18-0, 18-0-1. He's got 17 knockouts. He had a back and forth with Fraser Clark in the first fight, and it was a fucking fantastic fight. And I think it was the fight of the year, something crazy like that. A really good fight. I don't think many people expected the rematch to go how it did. Fabio Wardley, it was one of the most disturbing knockouts I've seen, to be honest. I'm laughing, but I'm laughing not because it was funny, because it was just like, fucking hell, Fraser Clark looked like he'd been punched onto another planet, to be honest. It was a real brutal knockout, but he handled him, and then it was sort of like, that's finished now, let's move on to the next fight, which was Jarrell Miller, but now it's Justis Huni. So Fabio Wardley, yeah, white-collar boxing, and people do mention that, and they've said how will he do when he comes up against, real boxers or whatever. They're all warriors, but you know what I mean, people with a more conventional boxing background who have come up for the amateurs or whatever, or been, even been in the Olympics. There aren't too many people in the position Fabio Wardley's in. I guess he's a bit of a throwback in that sense, where he's come from sort of the background that he has, and he's come this far. But he's obviously a huge talent. His athleticism, his power, his boxing brain, these are all things that will develop, but he relies a lot on his power. Similar to, I mentioned Rumble Johnson before from the UFC, some fighters just have that one-hitter quitter, as they call it. I think Fabio Wardley has that. Again, 17 knockouts, a very high knockout ratio, 94.44% knockout ratio, according to BoxRec. So, the main theme from, if you ask anyone, the main thing is Wardley's knockout power versus Huni's technical prowess. Wardley's known for explosive knockout power with a record of 18 wins, 17 map knockouts. His biggest weapon is his right hand, which has the ability to end fights in an instant, which it does. He's a big guy, but he's also fast. He's an aggressive fighter who thrives when he can push the pace, put his opponent on the back foot. So for me, my thinking preview-wise, one of the things that jumps out at me is Justis Huni will want to utilise his game plan, and he'll come in with a game plan. But as we've heard the cliche many times, everyone has a plan till they get punched in the face. You'll have seen it on T-shirts. Mike Tyson said it. I'm sure Randy Couture said it before in the UFC, or Chuck Liddell. You'll have heard, the bell end at your local Wetherspoons who thinks he's hard saying it to his mates at the bar. But it's just like a huge cliche you've heard many times, but one that is obviously correct. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I think one of the Gracies said, if you punch a black belt, he goes from being a black belt to a blue belt. So will Huni be able to utilise his game plan pretty much? Or will Wardley be so aggressive that he's really going to... Stress is the wrong word, because obviously there's going to be stress there during a boxing fight, but is he going to sort of short-circuit Huni when he's coming in with his game plan? Is the all-out aggression of Wardley just going to counteract that? And because Wardley's got such power, does that really close the gap? So Huni's background, his education, and he's bring IQ and his precision. Will Wardley, just really stop his ability to get going and move around, pick his shots, whatever? I think it will, to be honest. So usually in this situation, I'd go with the more technically skilled fighter. 9 times out of 10, I think. But in this situation, some fighters just have that scary power. And I think Fabio Wardley's got that. And he's developing at a rate where I don't just think he's going to rely on that. I think he'll have some surprises. He'll have some things in his locker for Justis Huni in this fight. And I think we'll see it a bit more from Fabio Wardley. But essentially, I think he's going to try and deliver that knockout punch. So the delivery system that we've heard before, I know Dewey Cox, Francis Ngannou's coach, was going on about it, the delivery system, delivering that power, one-punch knockout. Although I'm not comparing Ngannou to Wardley. Obviously, Wardley's a better boxer. But he's going to want to put himself in that situation where he can hit that one-hitter quitter, so to speak. I think that will be Fabio Wardley's game plan. He'll go in aggressive and he'll try and knock Justis Huni out. I think he's smart enough to think, I don't want to play into Justis Huni's trap and get into a boxing match. I want to fight him, not box him. So they said recently they had a face-to-face 4 days ago, I think. He could box, but I'm a fighter. And he referenced people he's fought who were boxers that couldn't deal with his fighting style, just his aggression and the fear that you must have fighting someone like Fabio Wardley, knowing that it just takes, with heavyweights, it can take just one punch, but when they've got that crazy power, even more so. And essentially, I think if Huni can avoid Wardley's bombs, he could win the fight, being the more technically skilled boxer. Yeah, I'll agree with that. But I don't think he'll be able to avoid the bombs from Wardley for the whole fight. And I think he will get knocked out later in the fight. I think Fabio Wardley will knock him out in the 8th or 9th round. For some reason, I have that number in my head, 8th or 9th. I think he'll knock him out. And that's quite late to call a knockout because, again, they'll be tired. He'll have less power at that point than earlier in the fight. But I just think gradually he'll wear him down. I think he'll still have that power to knock him out later on in the fight. So I'm going to go with that. So, ultimately, if he gets into a position where he can deliver that knockout punch, then I think he will beat Justis Huni. And I think he will have improved enough since his last fight to get into that position. I don't think Huni will be a rollover by any stretch of the imagination. Do you know what I mean? I'd say to me it's like a 60-40 for me, Wardley over Huni. So some people might be surprised at that. I just think that ultimately he will, like Kevin Lorena did hit Huni and he rocked him, and Huni recovered and he won the fight. So fair play to him. And I actually like Justis Huni. He seems like a cool guy. There's been no real trash talk. But it's still going to be quite an exciting fight. But I think ultimately, yeah, if he gets into the same situation he did with Lorena, he says he's learned from that. But if he hasn't, I think Wardley will knock him out. And I think that's what will happen. I think he'll get to him. I think he'll try and keep his game plan going, Huni. And I just think later on in the fight, he'll get brain fog, obviously, from getting twatted in the head repeatedly by 6'5", 240, 250 pound man. But I think he'll get hit with something, a couple of shots that will, end the fight. So I think a knockout win for Fabio Wardley. But it'll be a very tough fight. It'll be a bit back and forth like the Fraser Clark fight, the first fight. I can't see it being a quick knockout for either guy or a domination by any stretch of the imagination. I just think Wardley will win that with his Portman Road crowd behind him as well. Bearing in mind, it's not just a hometown fight, but he's fighting at the stadium, his favourite football club. I just think that he has got a lot of pressure on him, and he's got much more pressure on him than Justis Huni. I don't think Justis Huni's got that much pressure on him at all, really. More people are picking against him to win. Yeah, he's coming to enemy territory, but he'll know as well that Fabio Wardley has loads of pressure on his shoulders because Ipswich want to see him perform and they want a stunning knockout. They want a resounding victory for Fabio Wardley. So mentally, beg the question, how mentally strong is Fabio Wardley to have that on his shoulders? Will he be able to deliver to people that be baying for blood? I think he will personally. Like I say, my prediction. I've never really at any point thought Justis Huni will win. I've thought in a couple of ways he could win, and that would be by just being the more skilled boxer and picking his shots, keeping his distance, keep it being like a perpetual motion, just so Fabio Wardley can't hit that big shot. But I think Fabio Wardley, as Huni gets a bit tired towards the end of the fight and an opportunity does present itself, I think Fabio Wardley will have the presence of mind and he'd be buoyed by the crowd in Ipswich. I think he'll get the win. And then I'm hoping whatever happens, it's a great fight for both fighters, and even the loser could go on to something really good because it's a big opportunity for Huni as well. If he puts on a really good show, he could be. The next fight could be a big fight as well. It's a big opportunity for him, and I think that's why him and his team took the fight, because they probably weren't sure when this opportunity may come round again, where they will get a big stadium fight and this type of spectacle. And obviously, if he beats Fabio Wardley, it will elevate him quite a lot. And it'll put him into the limelight. I'm not saying he'll be a superstar immediately or anything, but it'll really put him in the conversation for some much bigger fights. And so it should, to beat Fabio Wardley. Like I said, the guy's unbeaten in 18 fights. But ultimately, I do think Wardley will win by knockout, and I think he'll move on. And then if Wardley wins as well, I don't know, what do you think? Is that a big enough win to elevate him to a title shot, or is he just within a fight or two of a title shot? Is it the type of win where he could be fighting someone like Ajit Kabayel next? Or is it the type of win where it's like, do you know what, pump the brakes a second, let's get the big Baby Miller fight done, and then if he beats him, we'll go from there. So yeah, other than that, the pressure, Huni doesn't have any. He's got an unbeaten record, and everyone's goes at some point, as we all know. But I don't think there's any pressure on his shoulders, really. He's expected to go in to lose. He's in enemy territory. I don't think it'll phase him, though, to be honest. Will Wardley's pressure be too much for him? Yeah, I think it will be. I think he'll stop him later on in the fight, I think. Just when Huni is getting tired, he's not able to just be focused to implement his game plan. I think he might slow down a bit because, he took this fight on shortish notice. So you never know how he's been training. The only other thing about the card as well is Dillian Whyte's status on the card. As far as I'm aware, he still hasn't got an opponent. So I don't know if it's just me being really fucking dumb, but it seems really weird. I'm just typing this in now. It seems really weird that he's fighting in a few days and he's not had opponent announced. Okay, so I'm on BoxRec again, which seems like a good site to go on. Yeah, so on BoxRec, 6th of June, opponent to be announced. We're on the 3rd of June, 7th of June, sorry. We're on the 3rd of June now. Fights in a few days and his opponent's not been announced, which is really confusing, but I want to see him on the card. I'm interested to see what his next step is. And again, if he fights, he won't fight a big name on this card, obviously, or it would have been announced already, unless it's going to be some WWE sort of unveil at the last minute. Someone's going to get out of a limo, like Hulk Hogan or something. I don't know, that'd be cool though. He's at an interesting point in his career, really, where he's only probably got a few fights left. So this one could be a tune-up after his hand injury. And then, bigger fight after that. Emi Ahia was rumoured to be fighting Dillian Whyte, which I was quite excited about because he looks like he'll bring it. Again, big opportunity from a similar area of the world to Justis Huni as well. I think he trains with Israel Adesanya, actually. I forgot the name of the gym. There's a really, famous, I think it's a New Zealand gym where some UFC fighters train. I think it's City Kickboxing or something. So I think Ahia trains there. It would have been interesting to see him on the card. And there were some other names bandied about, and none of them really were that intriguing or interesting. So other than the main event, the other talking point was really, is Dillian Whyte, unless I'm being really dumb, he's supposed to be on this card yet, but an opponent hasn't been announced. He's a fan favourite though, and he boosts the card's appeal, rightfully so, but it just seems weird. He's obviously going to be a co-main event, I think, if he's on the card. But he has no opponent. Anyway, my prediction for the fight is, as I've said a few times now, like I say, it's been quite tired, quite a long day, so I'm just repeating myself, whatever. But I just wanted to come home and do a video, get my thoughts out, do a preview. Then obviously there'll be the weigh-ins. There's probably another press conference, maybe a final press conference, maybe. I'll check all this as well. I'll do stuff on that as well. But yeah, Wardley. I'm thinking Wardley knockout, but I'm really torn. I'm going to say later in the fight. I think Wardley's just going to have a bit more left towards the end of the fight than Huni will, but he'll have enough to finish the fight. But I think it will be a really exciting fight. I'd be very surprised if it's boring. I don't think it will be. And I think if Huni's trying to be really technical in the skills and boxing him, I think Wardley could bring the dog out in him where he'll drag him into a brawl. I think it could be a really exciting fight. Potentially one of the fights of the year, I think. I actually think that for some reason. I think Wardley seems to bring the dog out of people when he fights them. I think that could be a factor. It could be a really good fight. Spectacle-wise, it's at Portman Road. I'm really looking forward to the coverage. It's going to be really cool just seeing it at a football stadium. Because, the main focus is the fighters, but it's always good to see what production value is brought to it, the venue, who's hosting it, what pundits they have on it. And like I said, the undercard, I'll look more into that nearer the time. I know Louis Green's on the undercard. I'm really looking forward to seeing him because I remember him from Riyadh season, and a tough, durable guy. But yeah, it's going to be a cool event. I think there's also an event in Barnsley on the 7th of June. So it's weird that there's a bit of a conflict in the schedule there. Obviously, there'll be more eyes on Wardley Huni, but I wouldn't mind casting an eye at some point of the weekend on the card in Barnsley as well. I think it could be Callum Simpson. Then I think, is it Mark Jeffers? There's a dude, ginger dude, unbeaten, British guy, big knockout power. He's on the card as well. So I think I'll try and watch that at some point of the weekend. Right, I'm going to go now because I'm hungry. Like I said, there's been a pizza in the oven for about 20 minutes. We're going on 20 minutes now, so I'm going to get this online probably tomorrow. Then I'll do more nearer the fight, like a press conference, the weigh-ins, what state the fighters are in. Probably be in really good state, to be honest. They're obviously training hard. They usually look good in the fights, so I don't think there's going to be any big bellies, although big bellies do prevail sometimes, as Dave Allen will tell you. Right, anyway, I'm off. Got the rest of your reading. 10 to 10 now. I think I'm going to do a bit of career mode on FIFA just to wind down a bit for the evening. A bit more admin-y stuff because I'm moving house in a few weeks. And then, gonna call it a night. Look out for more videos. I won't mind doing a video also on 5 versus 5 because that was a year ago. So just reflecting on 5 versus 5. And then a 5 versus 5 card that could happen in the future because that was really good fun. Really cool. Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren rivalry. Just good fun. Good bants. Bantosaurus Rexes all around. Right. Enjoy the rest of your evening, Nick with Couch Potato Fights. Just watching as usual. Appreciate it.